No, the internet is always dodgy over here. Oh man, I wish things were simpler. Because the problem with when you do a stream like this is that you'll think it's going good or not messed up, and then you watch the replay and it's like, what the hell is this? So I'm gonna just wait and see if this thing decides to work good or not. Oh man, these devices, they have this thing now where it used to be to where you could just see the time like on the side, just second by second, and now it's going like every 9 seconds. So like it'll go from 1.4 to 1.9 to like 1.14, then 1.19. Like, it's weird. But that's what had me worried that it was acting up. So I guess I'll try to work with this, and then if it acts up, then oh well, we tried. Um I realized that so the material I've made over the last year or so, venting stuff, right, where you just kind of talk about things that are bothering you. And I remember I had one person who posed the question of, if this bothers you so much, why don't you say it to the people you're talking about? And I tried to explain to them that oftentimes when I have attempted this in the past, it has not been beneficial to me. Many times when you directly say to these people what they're doing that's upsetting you or that you think is wrong, and you give your rationale for why it's screwed up, usually they don't they're not receptive to any type of critique whatsoever. And I said, I came to the epiphany that these individuals are to blame for nothing. Anytime they don't do something that is counterintuitive to what they claim, there's an excuse for it. Anytime they just are unable to perform in ways that are fitting or consistent with their rhetoric, they're able to dodge being critiqued over it. One of the best examples of this insanity was last year when I mentioned that I had a relative who passed away, and the complete buffoon I was staying with at the time was at the house with me every single day from when that happened, here, from the day it happened all the way up until me finally saying something about it. They knew about it, but never expressed any condolences, never said, "Hey, I'm sorry that this," nothing. And when I mentioned and brought this up last year, I thought, okay, this is some. There's no way they can get out of this because what rational, sane human being could say they love someone, but then when one of the people that's closest to that person dies, they just say nothing. Like, who could then, when it's presented to them, make excuses for it because they're with the person every day or almost every, because it's during the height of the people staying at their home for work thing. So I figured, okay, this is it. They've been got. There's no way they're going to be able to dodge being criticized over this. But sure enough, they said, I didn't say anything because you're not a very inviting person. And when this was said, I didn't say it back to them at that point, but I instantly knew they were full of crap because, as I've discussed before, when you live with someone who can never take out the trash, but who can work their lips up to say, "Oh, go take it out. Go in there and look and see if there's any more," then you know that that individual has no problem approaching you, certainly for these mundane tasks. But when it's something as important as a person passing away, uh you know they couldn't be bothered. And the actual reason they couldn't be bothered is because they don't care. But they're trying to claim, and this is the kind of stuff, like, I hope people understand. Comments like that really piss me off because this person is basically in a non um combative manner trying to say that my personality caused them to not express sympathy for me. So they're saying it's my fault that they couldn't open up their fat lips to say, "Hey, I'm sorry that this person that was close to you passed away. I apologize," or my condolences. Or are you all right? Like it's my fault they didn't do that, even though they're with me every single day. But just no day can say a word about it. So that was just one of the just premier examples of the buffoonery and a lot of the lies. Just like the overzealous lies, the stuff where any normal person that is like told, "Hey, you should have said something about this," would admit, "Yeah, I probably should have." But in their case, they always have an excuse. There's always a way of ducking and dodging accountability for anything. And it's like the nerve of that person to tell me that they wanted me to go back to school so I could be responsible. And it's like you're so irresponsible. You can't even not only express condolences when a person close to someone passes away, but also when you're confronted about this, you blame the person for you not doing this. So that was a bit of a precursor. It's not the same individual, but it was that's one of the things I was reminded of. Another example is how we have the world's greatest the spin artist who, I'm not kidding, for 3 years criticized me for like just being unemployed after I stopped going to college. And in that 3-year period of just running his mouth, talking trash, just being very disparaging of this person that he claims to love, he never once, during any of the weekends where he was free, during any of the weekends where he wasn't working, never once came over and offered to apply with for jobs with me. Not a single time in all those years. Any job I had between now and then has been acquired by me and me alone. There no help from any of these people. And what I thought was really interesting is that after getting hired by the last place I worked for, which is back in November last year, he had started to talk about how I could get a better position with this company that he was like affiliated with or something to that effect. And I thought to myself, that's not a bad idea in concept, but where the hell was this offer 6 months ago, last year, the year before last? Like what is like, isn't it crazy that it took you getting hired by somewhere for them to suddenly say, "Oh, we're actually now going to assist you with getting a job"? It's like, yeah, you're it's too little, too late. You didn't do anything when this person actually needed one, and now that they have one, you're going to tell them that this doesn't measure up to the standards for which you would prefer. Like what? So I was I kind of just went along with that. I said, okay, whatever. We'll let this circus play out. And then as I was kind of just watching things unfold, I noticed that he would call himself filling out, like doing an application for, I guess, a resume for me. And I kid you not, he just abruptly stopped on it. And I brought up, was like, "Hey, so what happened to that?" He's like, "It's your job to tell me that you want me to finish this." And I'm like, what?" So let me repeat this just for the sake of clarity. He argued that because the resume was for me, it was my responsibility to hold on, let me answer this call. Hello? Hello? It's always those stupid spam calls. But he was arguing that since the resume was for me, that it was my responsibility to remind him to finish it or something to that effect. And I said, "No." I said, "It doesn't make any sense to me that a person who injects themselves into something I didn't ask for their help on because they are of no help, um, I am somehow accountable for a document that they volunteered themselves to create." It would be like if I came up to, I don't know, let's say my cousin, I said, "Hey, cousin, I'm going to make sure that when you, what's a good example? I'm going to draw a portrait of you so that we can like put this in your office or whatever." And I work on the portrait for about a few days. And then a week or two passes, and my cousin's like, "Hey, so did you finish the portrait?" And I say to him, "It was your responsibility to finish, to tell me to finish." It's like, but I didn't even ask you to do this in the first place, and you said you were going to do it. Why do I have to remind you to do something that you said you would do? That's why after that happened, I just left that person alone. I said, you know what? They're going to blame me for any shortcomings of theirs, any refusal to finish the things they said they would do or to do what they said they would do. So he can sit there with his half complete or 70 or 80% complete resume, and I'm just gonna keep applying for stuff without him because this is going nowhere. And sure enough, that was the main thing I took from that you just can't have any faith in these people, that they will let you down, and they will, like, it's one thing to just not measure up to someone's standards, right? Like, we all have, I'm sure, some person where we think they could do more than what they're doing or better than what they're doing, but it's another thing when those same people have this almost innate ability to never be accountable for anything that they either do wrong or that they do that's screwed up or that's messed up. Like, they just don't care at all about anything or anyone besides themselves. And what's funny is that they can take the most minute of stuff, the most basic of stuff, and do it and frame it as if it's this big, huge achievement. It's this giant sweeping change that they've brought to your life or to you in some way. Now, I have a relative that I call constantly. I call them to make sure they're all right. I call them to see how they're doing. Sometimes I call them because I just want to express my frustration with how things are going. But the point is that I am a regular fixture of their life, to where they've called me sometimes and when they've needed assistance with things, and I've tried to do it to my, whenever I'm available. Um and I made the point of how it's crazy that when you have something as non-costly as calling someone, seeing how they're doing, and the fact that these people can't even do that, it's like, yeah, don't sit here and start singing this song to me about how concerned you are for my well-being when you can't even call me. Like, you guys all have phones, you all have my number. So any decision to not call is really just more proof of how little you actually are concerned with my status, or I guess condition, or whatever, whichever way you would refer to it. So after and I bring that up just to say that it's so easy to do the whole, like, everybody is poor, right? Everybody wants to say that they can't assist you financially with anything. And it's easy to sing that song, but when you start factoring in things that literally cost them nothing, like, hey, if you're so bothered this person doesn't have a job, maybe you can sit down with them over the course of the weekend or over the next few days and help them apply for positions with different companies. And that's why I said, when they can't even do something as basic as that, something as costless as that, other than time, then it really pokes a hole in this idea that the reason they're not doing things is because all stuff is so expensive, or just like any other rationale besides they just don't give a damn pretty much is thrown out the window when you consider that even the things that would almost certainly cost them nothing, they still can't, be involved with. They still can't do anything for you with regard to. That's like just the ultimate proof that, yeah, this is not congruent with someone who's truly concerned about your well-being. These are all like actors. They're all, and I was talking to my friend about it. I said, why do you think people who don't do anything for you will have no problem like they will they will say to their last breath, "Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." And I asked him, "Why do you think these people do that? Do you think they say it because if they were to just come out and admit, yeah, I don't care about this person, they would like feel worse about themselves, like they would not think they're good people. They already are not good people, but like at least when they say they love someone, like the rhetoric is where it should be, right? As far as they can convince themselves of this thing that no one around them believes other than the same, little members of their sycophant liar family. And he told me that they do this as a way of protecting their image. Like they have this, even though they're not famous and no one knows who they are, right? They're complete unknowns. They have this idea of what they're supposed to say and be in terms of how other people perceive them. And if they were to, even if they don't do things that are actually in line with that way of thinking, right? Because I talked before about like you have this one parent where their kid was like flunking classes and they're talking about as long as we're fly, then they don't care. But he had said to me that their image is what causes them to say these types of things, even if they're doing nothing to show it. That they say it so they can feel better about the fact that they do almost nothing or like literally next to nothing. That we sometimes when we talk to, he didn't say this part, but I know that there's a thing in psychology where when you talk to others and you say something, it a lot of times people will say it to somebody else to convince themselves, like, when they're saying I love you, they know I don't believe it because I've said before I think it's total just bogus, but they're saying it to me as a way of convincing themselves. Now, if somebody were to ask me to show them proof that I love someone, I would point to substantive things that I do for someone else that are consistent, that are based around like a thing that they need that I can offer or give, right? Um, I'm telling you, when you hear the rationales these people have, and it's like these people are all technically not connected in the sense that they don't talk to each other. At least two of them don't, but they can reach pretty similar conclusions about things because they have this like warped perspective where if they do just the tiniest bit of something and you can like marginally include that as benefiting another person, they think that's like a major thing for you, or they can repurpose that as, oh, this is for him, even though they couldn't give any less of a damn about him. So last year, I got into a pretty big argument with the spin artist, and I repeated some pretty similar points I've made in the past. I said that he did not care about yours truly because it's pretty obvious when you look at the way in which these people can't assist you with any utility, right? Anything that you actually need, like getting food, getting a job. These are things that someone, if they were truly concerned about your well-being, especially if they're aware you have problems with getting this stuff, would actually do to assist you with getting. So his defense of himself is to say, "Oh, I offered to drive you to the market one time." So yeah, that one offer to take me up there would have been very impactful. But also his next excuse was, "Oh, I love you because I pay for where you live." When I heard that line, I put my hand over my face and I realized that speaking to him any further was a complete, like, I think we had maybe two or three conversations after that, and that was it. Like a very, very few. We were approaching the end of our relationship or even like ability to speak to each other. Um, and just to clarify, within 1 month, actually, no, I take that back. Within less than, let's see, that was December 21st. And that thing with that crazy other relative, do you have a place to live when you come back? That was the first week of this year. So I'm not kidding when I say that Within 3 weeks of using the fact that I lived somewhere that he paid for as proof of supposedly loving me, he would then reverse course and say, "You can't bring your expletive back there." Uh, you know, basically like seconding what this other person wanted, which is just like get out of my house or whatever. So I just want to get you to understand, even if that didn't happen, that still is a really stupid thing to use as proof of your supposed love for someone, because that place was being paid for by them so they could keep it for themselves. That's why after I left from over there, they still kept paying for it, because it wasn't about, oh, we need to do this for him so he could. No, no. They're doing something for themselves and you just happen to be along for the ride. They're paying for this thing for themselves and you just happen to also be there. That's why after I left, they still kept paying for it, because it was never about me. Dude, I'm telling you, it's so funny how like I don't even know what to say at this point. The idea that someone can use the fact that they pay for the place that you stay as proof of their supposed concern for you, when you like, I mean, we'll get into the other one soon, but just like, God, it's incredible. Anytime you criticize them over their lack of ability to do something, there's always an excuse. There's always, oh, but what about this? What about that? What about no, never any direct blame for anything. It's really sad. That's why I became so angered, because it was like, even if you try to sit them down and calmly explain, hey, you're not doing this, they still just talk over you. They still, just they're not receptive to listening to anything you say. And even a conversation with him is usually, you get to talk for maybe like a minute at most, and then he'll go and speak for like 4, 5, 7, 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes straight. It's just this verbal filibuster. And I'm not interested in wasting my time with that. But um back in, I think it was September or August. I'm leaning toward August, but I could be wrong. It was last year. I did a video called "If You Don't Pay, I Don't Care What You Have to Say." And in that video, I was talking about how, this relative had gone to the hospital, and in their place, I had another one who took me to the store to go and like get some stuff to eat. And how this person just, they wouldn't like pay for anything, and their rationale, well, actually, first let me say this. At first, they when we were there, they tried to criticize what I was getting. They're like, "You're not getting any meat, you're not getting," and I was thinking to myself, "Idiot, you're not paying for anything, so why should you even be able to criticize what foods I eat?" Because that's my thing. It's like, if you're not going to spend 1 cent on what someone eats, then you should shut the hell up. You're not doing anything for that person. What do you think? Because you drove them up somewhere, that's of some great benefit to them. So after I make it known to, like, I think a few other relatives, and like the fact that I'm kind of upset when I'm there, that like, yeah, I would have expected this person to at least get something, right? At first they say, "Oh, I didn't get you anything because you got in the line before I did," and then they pivot, because like I said, these people, when you have a discussion with them, it's pretty much the equivalent of someone throwing darts at a wall and trying to see what sticks in terms of when they make their argumentation. There's nothing consistent about it. It's just a very angry individual who thinks that they're above critique. So again, the first excuse was, "Oh, you got in the line before I did." The second excuse was, "Oh, you're an adult. You should be able to pay for your own stuff, even if you're unemployed." So after that complete embarrassment of a rationale, um I just kind of sat and thought to myself, this is really nuts. But throughout this year, that same relative has mainly, done very little, but they found a way to, of course, charge somebody 300 a month to live with them. And a lot of times when I go to get food from the market, I'm always looking at how much stuff costs. I'm trying to not, because when you don't have a job and when you're being drained of 300 by somebody every month, it's you don't really get that many options in terms of what kind of stuff you can get. Like, I'm not even kidding. I used to be someone that went out and got fast food probably like 2 or 3 times a week. Now I only go maybe once every 2 weeks, or like at one point I didn't go for months. It really has decreased rapidly. Um, but one of the things I get from the market is fries, because you can get a big case of them for probably like $2, $3. Some amount that's like less than four for one bag, right? And these are bags that are pretty stacked. A lot of times I can eat one bag of that and get probably some other type of food, like for example, I don't know, some soup, which is also cheap. It's like $8 for 10, or $10 for 8 rather. And again, I'm getting this stuff because it's not as expensive as other things. It can last a lot longer. So she criticizes me over eating the same foods over and over. And she has this extremely cringeworthy song that she likes to sing over me eating the same stuff again. And I guess I'll try to explain this as politely as I can. I feel like you could say and make the argument, oh, someone they don't want you to eat this stuff because they're worried about your health, because that was what she forwarded to me, right? The idea of, oh, I'm concerned if you eat this, you're going to get sick, or you're going to whatever, whatever. But to that, I say, if the person is unwilling to ever or almost never get you any food that can substitute for this supposedly unhealthy stuff that you're getting, how true is their concern? I mean, I would think if I'm going to sit here and tell you that, yeah, you shouldn't eat this, and I'm worried that this will come back and, like, be too much for you or not be good for you, then surely I would then get you something that's healthier, right? I would reach in my own pocket and get you the thing that I think you should be eating instead, right? But of course, that does not happen. That never happens. It's just, like I said, it's a self parody. It's people pretending that they're concerned, that they're worried, that they're very much bothered by what's happening or going to happen to you if you keep going down this road, I guess. But as far as actually doing something that demonstrates their concern, like a palpable thing that demonstrates that they're worried, you can't count on them for anything. Um, so guys, where sometimes things, it almost feels like a movie, just in terms of how stuff is paced. But I I don't eat all of them usually in one fell swoop. I'll eat some like in the afternoon, then the rest in the evening, or early evening, and then I should be good for the rest of the day. So yesterday, as I'm warming these fries up, the person, she comes here and she starts singing this song, and I'm like, well, if you don't like what I'm eating, then give me something else. And that's a noticeable thing for me, because normally when they do things that upset me or annoy me, I don't say anything back, because I know that no matter what way you go at it from, they're going to have nothing but excuses for just not doing anything. And she says, "What N word?" And then I actually wrote the rest of it down, because I was I was so astonished. Like, I wasn't astonished; it was like some surprise to me, but it was like I knew what way it would go without specifically knowing what type of thing, like what exactly she would say. You got money, spend it. I'm making sure you have a roof over your head. Man, when I heard that line, when I heard that stupid line, it's like my mind flashed back to literally last year with him. You know, oh, we pay for where you live, so that means we love you. That means we care about you. It's like, no, 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 no. You do that for yourself, and I'm just happening to be along for the ride. And we know that to be the case because, especially with her as well, because the homeless saga took place. You know, like you got this new place under the premise of, oh, I want him to have somewhere to stay, but then after he was with you for less than 3 months, you were talking about you can get the expletive out of here, and you know, all types of other lines about you can go, you can leave, get out of my house, etc. These are those are not things you say as someone who supposedly loves someone to such an extent that they're paying for this place for you. It's like, no, it's not for you, it's for them. They were complaining about not having their own place, and this relative that they have did them a favor by, you know, giving them this or citing this to them or whatever, letting them uh you know, it's just basically they were already upset over not having their own place, and the stuff with me was just a way to ensure they had someone else that was going to pay something when they went there. So it's not, that's why I said none of it is actually about concern for me. It's all just hoopla. And that's the part that really drives me insane. Like, they both ended up, they always claim to be so different from each other, right? Oh, I'm not like this person. This person is too much of this. But the one thing they had in common is when you hold the mirror up to their face and you say, hey, wait a second, if you care so much about this man, why is it that you can't do something as basic for him as buying him food, especially if you're going to criticize what types of foods he eats when you're literally not, you know, you're getting him nothing to eat. How can you fix your mouth up to have a problem with what he eats when you don't give him anything and he has to go out and get stuff and obviously be worried about price? But like that's the part that I just thought was so frustrating, that you have this person who says you got money as if they think I'm some unemployed millionaire when they're like, most of my stuff is going to them. It doesn't cost 300 a month for me to eat. It sure does to stay over here. They both ended up saying, using the same excuse for different reasons, but like, oh yes, I care about you. Oh, okay. Are you doing anything like helping this person get a job, feeding them, you know, any essential thing that they might need? Oh no, but oh yes, I am, because I pay for where you live, even though I'm not doing that for you, and we know that that's the case because after you left from over there, I was still paying for it anyway. It's like, yeah, very very concerned for me, absolutely. So man, people can just I pay for where you live, so I care about you, even though I'm doing that so that I can have somewhere to stay. And you know, it's not actually about you because I threatened to get rid of you right after literally months after I started even paying in the first place. So much concern. This lady posted a picture at 5 in the morning. Oh yeah, over there it's like 8 o'clock, so I guess that makes sense. But no, I just really think something's wrong with them for believing this stuff. Um I think if someone is truly concerned about another person, they should assist them in ways that like things that actually benefit them, stuff that they actually need. And really, as for the final part of this stream, because I'm not going to go for 2 hours because people aren't speaking again. I guess I can also relate that during the fiery exchange I had with that relative when we were going to get the vehicle was excuse me. I'm definitely going back to sleep after stream's over. But one of the things that they had said to me in defense of themselves, because I brought up the point of like, how do you not help someone with getting a job or with getting any food, but then you claim you care or love them or whatever. And his rationale, and I kid you not, this is what he said was just because a person doesn't care for you in the specific types of ways in which you would prefer doesn't mean they don't love you. I said, what? Because, again, what's generally understood is that there are things called utilities, things that you need, food, a job, etc. And the point I was making was you can't sit here, do nothing to assist with either of those things, but then project this idea that you're so concerned about someone. It's really one of the stupidest lines I've ever heard, but it honestly, it's not even surprising because like I said, these people always have an excuse for their conduct, for their lack of action on any substantive thing that you actually would benefit from. So it's not surprising that he said that. It's surprising that he said something so like just God, imagine like justifying trying to make somebody think that like trying to make it sound as if someone else is crazy because they want the people that claim that they love them to actually feed them. Like God, imagine if I had like a son or daughter and for a whole week, or even like let's say I have like a niece or nephew, and like for a whole week, I don't like they just don't eat at all. And they're like, okay, you don't care about me because you let me starve. And I say, just because I didn't do things for you in the specific types of ways in which you would prefer doesn't mean I don't care. God, it's what an embarrassment of a line. Like I'm not even kidding. That was when I knew just without a shadow of a doubt that he was completely and utterly useless. Like that you would be better off just not even speaking to him whatsoever. And when I say useless, I don't mean in the abstract, okay, so this person can do like literally nothing, right? Because if he wanted to, he could pay for me to eat. I mean, I said before, if these people really wanted to, they could actually split their money together to like $20 a week, and that would be enough to cover pretty much everything I needed, or 30, like if they work together, which they've done for other stupider things, you would see the benefit or what, just my point is that they have the money, especially when they act as a group. It really comes down to a feeling that we already neglected this person when they were underage. So now that they're an adult, we can keep doing that and we can feel more justified because of their age. Um, it's not over any actual, because I've said before, a lot of them do this thing where they pretend that getting a job is like the simplest, easiest thing in the world. You just snap your fingers and suddenly you're working somewhere. So when you adopt this really goofy childlike view of employment, um you start to see like why from their perspective they would think, oh yeah, I mean, what he's worried about not having any money to get something to eat. Well, you just get a job. So that's one of the rationales behind it, that oh, you can have this but you don't want to because you're lazy. So it's hard to not be angry about this stuff. It really is. Because my thing is, and I've only spoken about this a few times, due to the fact that I really don't feel like it's a bitter memory. It's something that when I remember it, I get more upset in retrospect because there actually was starting to become a period where I kind of just accepted like, hey, that happened. It was lame, but whatever. Um, 5 years ago, I got into a university. And in getting into a university 5 years ago that was out of state, they wanted $30,000 in tuition costs. This included room and board, the books, the whole enchilada. Now, after loans and grants, or I guess it was mostly just grants, I have to go and look at, I'd have to like research what it was, but the number was cut in more than half. It dropped to 12,000. And I approached three relatives who, as a collective, as a whole, right, as a full group, had all been working for a sum total of 90 years. One had been working for 50 years, the other two been working for 20 plus. So these are all people that have been working for quite some time. And while I didn't expect one person to pay 12,000, I said, okay, if they cut this, if they split this between them, they can pay for this. Like I know that. Um, but they refused, would not give me the money for that, right? So I wasn't able to go. And this was a source of great frustration for me for years because I felt like I did what I was supposed to do. When you go to school, what people tell you to do is you're supposed to study, you're supposed to pass the courses, classes, whatever. And then after, if your grades are to a satisfactory enough amount, you'll be able to get into a university. That's generally seen as what a person who is a student is supposed to do. So the idea that I could do that and then not be able to go to a university again after studying, after passing the classes, after doing what I had apparently been out to do since getting started, it made me want to just scream. Um, but again, in retrospect, I looked back and I said, okay, you know what? I get where going up and asking somebody, even if they're a fully grown adult who you've seen spend thousands on all types of other stupid stuff, like I say, okay, I understand if I'm being objective, completely objective, right? I can get where that amount was something that a person would kind of like recoil at, like, hey, what the hell? Because like I see where that amount would be like a big thing for pretty much anyone, right? Even if I still would say that my point in asking multiple people was that I think if they split it, they could have paid whatever, whatever. So after this happened, years go by and we get the current situation of the last, uh 13, 14, 15 months. And you look at the fact that these people can't help you get a job or do very little to help you get a job. They refuse to get you anything to eat. And when you factor in that food, even at its highest, stuff from the grocery store, stuff from any of these fast food places, even at their highest, are infinitely cheaper than thousands of dollars. When you consider that we went from these people saying they can't pay thousands, right, to now they can't pay what, $10, $20, $30, $40. That's why I said we've reached a level of absurdity because that excuse of, oh, this is too much is used for everything. It doesn't matter how cheap it is. Oh, my alarm. I was trying to make sure I woke up. Having something set so much later in the day does have me kind of, I want to say on edge a little bit, but I'm just thinking about how, so to go to a work type setting, at 4:30, like when basically everyone is getting ready to get off of work is interesting to me. Mm. Yeah, that was the saddest part about this whole situation in my view. Just the lack of ability to do anything like on the part of these people that it really doesn't matter how much something costs. If it doesn't directly benefit them, they they really don't see an urgency to it. So like, oh yeah, this person wants to go to college and get this piece of paper that everybody says is so important. If you don't get it, your life is over and you're doomed, etc., etc. Oh well, thanks for studying and doing all the stuff you were supposed to do. Now let's all sit here and pontificate on how expensive it is. And I made the point because I like this is what like people just they miss the forest for the trees. I am in no way suggesting that 12,000 is a little bit of money. That's why I asked three people for it to work together. But you got to understand, even an in-state school, because schools are generally more expensive when you leave your state or go to a state you're not from, whatever. But even an in-state school is roughly several thousand as well, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. I mean, yeah, it's cheaper, but it still is around the same price as what these people would have been paying or slightly more than what they would have been paying if they worked together. So what I'm getting at is when they as a group refused to pay for that out of state school, I knew that no matter what school I went to, unless it was a community college where they don't have to basically pay for anything, they would just not pay for that either. Like it doesn't, that's why I said it doesn't cost is a cute thing for them to hide behind, right? Oh my God, this is 1,000. Oh my God, this is 500. Oh my God, this is 100. But in reality, it truly does not matter how expensive or inexpensive something is when people just don't care about you. A few months back, my car needed an oil change, and it was the person told me it'd be like $30. It was 80, and it's like I'm not saying $80 is nothing, but it's a hell of a lot less than the amount that was asked for that school. But that's why I said it's like if these people can't assist you with anything that you need, anything that even including the stuff that they claim you need, right? Then what good are they? Because like I said, that whole "oh, I pay for where you live, so I care," that's all total bupkis for the two reasons I laid out before. It's not for you, which is why they'll get rid of you as quick as they can. And also that's again, it's not related to your actual living expenses. Just a lousy group, man. A really, really lousy group. And this job thing, I hope, truly hope that the orientation I go to today and the place that I'm apparently about to start working for, I really hope it works out. I do. I genuinely with like wish nothing but this to go well. That is a true statement of both conviction and desperation on my part. But the problem is that no matter how much I may want that to happen, no matter how much I may desire for that to happen, no matter how much I may learn the things that they show me to do, right? I still can't make a place hire me and I can't stop them from wanting to fire me. Like I said, I'm not a little kid. I've been with places before. I've worked for different companies in the past. And the more I saw, the less I liked. I watched as every year you had this constant desire to just throw someone away. Oh, you like you want to work for us? Okay, sure. And then they get rid of you. I mean, it's this is what they do. That's why a lot of these places every single day, all year long, have now hiring signs in their window. When I was working at that restaurant, they had a now hiring sign and they had it the whole time I was there. And why is that, you may ask? Because they didn't want to, they knew they were going to get rid of people, including the ones that they just hired. That's what they do. They go through everyone. It's just so insane to me that they can really justify their lack of involvement. It's incredible. Now, every time I hear the word love used by one of them, I find myself wanting to vomit because it just seems like it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it doesn't mean anything. So I said she and him and that other one, they can all just. And what gets me is that this current one, she tries to play the whole thing of, I'm so destitute, I'm so, what am I gonna do? Da, 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 da. But I'm gonna just say this: no one who is truly poor, no one who is truly, oh my God, I'm on my last leg, what am I gonna do? No one who's actually of that degree of poverty is going to be flying to other countries for vacations. That just doesn't make any sense. Remember, in all the months of this trash going on, I've only flown one time, and that was before it got worse, thanks to the upcharge. No, I've spoken before about how screwed up a lot of this stuff is, and really, it just comes down to, it's one thing to not support somebody. And again, I'm not talking about that stupid thing of, oh, I pay for where you live. Again, that's not what I'm talking about. But like, it's one thing to not support someone with, as it pertains to things specifically affecting them. But it's another to, at the same time as you're not willing to do anything for them, ask them to reach into their pocket every month and give you hundreds of dollars. Because like I said, everything revolves around them. It's all centered around their desires. They think they're just at the center of everyone's attention, and they're not. So the best I hope for, and this is just what I'm not saying this will happen, but it's something I've discussed before with some other people, is that because I have seen an increase in general channel viewership. Like, I still do a lot of stuff that gets like tens of views, but as far as like, I do have a lot of older things or like newer stuff that's getting more views than it did before. The only slightly positive scenario I can see happening is that eventually I'll have stuff that has enough views on it to where it's like self-sustaining and I'll be able to make a little bit off of there and then add that into whatever I get from the job. Again, that's just a hope of mine. I'm not saying it will happen. It's just it seems like that's because I said before, the problem is that with me as a person is I don't have confidence in any of these jobs anymore. Like I don't see them as some kind of savior type figure that's going to, all the idiots talk about start your own business. But as far as I know that a lot of these places will hire people and then get rid of them after a few weeks or a month or whatever. So I'm saying that at least if that happens, again, in this scenario that I'm constructing or hypothesizing of, you can say, all right, well, you still ended up getting, something from this site that you're on as well. Um, which I do think would be very fitting. Like I said, I've tried very hard to brave the storm. And the stuff I'm asking from these people, I just don't think is that much. I think they're very defensive because like there's some part of them, and they'll never admit it because they're not accountable for anything. But there's some part of them that knows they could do more. So they have to create these rationalizations in their head for why they're not doing more. Oh, he didn't ask me. He didn't tell me. But why would he? If you're talking about you don't owe him expletive, like, yeah, why would he even think to ask you? Like, what? Why? You want to talk about the other ones? Talk about you're not very inviting. I could say that same thing about their stupid relative. Like, yeah, they're not inviting either if they're talking about they don't owe somebody anything, but then they're surprised when that person never comes up and asks them for anything. Mm. And I guess as like a nice little cherry on top, we can mention this because it's kind of funny. Um, do I want to bring this up? I guess I could. Maybe. I'm debating it if I'm going to mention this. Let me just think for a second. Should I bring this up? I'm really thinking like what's the worst that could happen, but there's I don't know, maybe yeah, I'll say it like this. So, um I started to stream off by saying that a lot of times people will say they care about someone because, oh, I pay for this, whatever. But honestly, even if we go by that logic, we can say they don't care because look at all the stuff they refuse to pay for. Remember, I'm not asking for a new pair of shoes or a new shirt or a new jacket or I mean, like all the stuff that's being requested by me are things that I need to survive. Food, stuff relating to fixing the car, like the oil change, for example. And it's like they won't do anything. They're extremely incapable of extending any type of olive branch to assist this person that they claim to care so much about. And that's why I said someone should explain to me how it makes any sense to like sit around and talk about how much you care about somebody, but then at every turn you're just not doing anything for them. And even the thing that you claim you're doing is still mostly for you. Oh, now I remember. It was yeah, when so they'll do little itty bitty tiny stuff and then act like they've saved you, Like for example, um one day, actually no, about I think twice a month. Do you want to have a place to live when you come back? That person, they would get me like a pizza or some other type of food. And I remember that they were talking to the one that I'm currently with. They had mentioned like, "Oh, I got him a pizza." And that person like pointedly said while they were recounting the fact this person said this like, okay, what is that supposed to do? You got them a pizza for an entire week. Like, where are they supposed to chop? Is he supposed to chop it up into 1,000 pieces or eat like a crumb a day? Like it's but that's my point of how like they can do the most bare minimum stuff, really see themselves as some kind of savior hero type character. Like, look at me, I have been of such great aid to this guy. It's like, no, you haven't. You have done in many cases the bare minimum, many cases even less than that. You're nothing. You're again, we said it, I said it before. These people are self parodies. They're joke versions of concerned relatives. They're hello person I love so much and care so much about. Oh, you need something to eat? Um, I mean, hey, okay, whatever. Sure. Like I said, I'll never understand how anyone can claim they care about somebody and just do like absolutely nothing for them. And then like I don't know. I've never. I'm not even saying to be funny. I don't have like 900 friends or anything, but like I've never seen this before. Even with like I mentioned, I know like the parents of these same relatives did stuff for them. Um, Other relatives did stuff for them. Like that's why it's so crazy that I'm just surrounded by this group that won't do anything. They're all sitting around completely like completely willing to just let you drown. So my friend said I had the worst relatives he'd ever seen. He was right. And I don't know what's going to happen with this job. Whether they keep me on for a few weeks or a few months. I'll try to the best of my ability. I always do whenever I work for one of these places. But if I'm not able to stay there for that long, I'm not going to be surprised because that's what they do. They take you in and throw you out before you can even warm your seat. It's just that normally when that kind of thing happens to someone that's trying to, come up in this crappy economic situation, they tend to have other people around them who can kind of like be there for them in a way. And trust me, this group they're nothing like that. They'll pay for where you stay at a minimum because again, that's for themselves, and then they'll be right there with their hand out for some more money. That's all it's about. Everything is just coins, coins, coins. But remember, it's never to your benefit. It's always them trying to sample something out of you. It's just a bunch of parasites. So, thanks for watching and have a good rest of your Monday.